We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PACE Radio Show. I'm your host, Al Graham, and we are live, and we are coming to you from paceradio.net. Tonight on the show, I'm joined by my joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper, who has invited a guest who is a patient, a survivor, and someone who helps patients as well. But first, as always, Kim and I gonna talk news, aren't we, Kim?
We sure are. We cover at least one news story at the start of every show. And I'm really, really excited about the one that we're covering today because it's got to do with a personal friend of both yours and mine.
That's right, exactly. Ted Smith and everybody over there at the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, they avoid eviction, and they argue that the BC Cannabis Police are out of its jurisdiction.
That's right. They are out of their jurisdiction. The article is fairly long and in depth. Basically, Ted Smith, of course, was raided by the Cannabis Safety Unit, Community Safety Unit, which is out there in BC operating under the provincial government and raiding any illicit, quote unquote, cannabis operations that are happening in that province. Now, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, they currently have a letter and a petition in to the federal government. They are requesting federal exemption, and they consider themselves a federal entity to be governed by the feds, not the province. So, because of the Community Safety Unit, landlords are kicking out people that are operating illicit businesses because of threats from the Community Safety Unit fines. And so Ted was dealing with a double whammy against the one from the landlord wanting to evict them, as well as the threats, ongoing threats for more repercussions from the Community Safety Unit.
That's right, yeah. So they've come out with an agreement with the landlord now in order to be able to open up. And they've done that through agreement that includes that if there's any fines, that Ted will be responsible for them.
Yeah. I mean, they argue that this is a federal issue. The feds are the ones that are making the decision regarding the exemption from the Cannabis Act, which is a federal document. It's a federal law. And as medicinal cannabis falls under the jurisdiction of Health Canada and not the province, that means this is in the feds' hands. It's not got anything to do with the Community Safety Unit, which is tasked with compliance under the Ministry of Public Safety in BC. And those are the ones that have been threatening the landlord with fines of up to $50,000 and jail time if the club's lease is renewed. So Ted came up with his answer, which was to petition the feds, and he supplied the landlord's attorneys with his petition to the feds and say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. We're going against the feds here. We're going against the province. We think it's the feds. So will you work with us? And the landlord's lawyer says, that they'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good, to have the support there of them, because the landlord, they've been threatened with $50,000 fines and jail time.
Yeah,
if the lease, exactly. If the lease was renewed, and now they've gone and renewed it, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Quote from Ted here. It says, we're trying to tell the Community Safety Unit that we are outside of their jurisdiction and that we are applying for a Health Canada exemption for medical purposes, and that they should stop any further punitive actions against us pending the results of our negotiations with Health Canada. And that's according to Ted Smith, spoke to Mugglehead News over the phone.
Yeah, they've sent a letter to the CSU asking them to halt any further actions. As well, it says here, Ted goes on to say, the landlord's lawyer has agreed that the arguments we have are reasonable enough for them to continue leasing the property, hopefully without fear of this CSU coming after us or the landlord. And if we do, in the new lease, we have accepted the responsibility for any fines that the landlord may face if the CSU does decide to go that route.
So basically, the landlord has said, yep, okay, we're going to renew your lease. VCBC's home is secure. But if anything does happen, the VCBC is responsible for any fines that the community safety unit will impend on the property owner. Yep. So Ted's taking on full financial responsibility for all of it.
It sure is. He's asked, it says here that the club is calling for letters of support from anyone wanting to help in this to be sent to the Times columnist, which is a newspaper there. He says that we need, or a spokesman there says, we need to flood the Time columnist with letters to ensure the depth of our support in town is clear to the editorial department, and hopefully if they print several letters of support, it will reach the politicians as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the public, when we speak, they have to listen. They work for us, right?
Yeah.
And if the community has the support publicly, I mean, we know they have the support on a private level, on a one-on-one level. Ted's got outpouring of support. Now, let's get those boots on the ground. Let's get those pens on the paper, and let's get those emails sent.
That's right. The fingers on the keyboard to get them in there.
Yeah.
And in closing, it says that they plan on sending their exemption here, it says, to Health Canada this week. So.
Yeah, so we'll be keeping an eye on this and all that's going on at the VCBC with Ted Smith and, the marvelous push that he's doing right now for patients. He's standing up for patients, and I mean, we need that right now. Patients in this country are under attack from all sides, and we're seeing it unfurl in the government from all levels of government, and we need to start fighting back again. It's time again. We got complacent with legalization, and we're getting steamrolled.
Yeah, as everybody's aware, if you're not aware, Health Canada is doing a review on the medical program, and they are asking for input. And I'm sure that they are getting plenty of it from the municipalities, especially across here in Ontario.
Yes, exactly. And we all know the squeaky wheel gets the grease, people. So if the naysayers are the only ones that are shouting out, then they will be the ones that are getting the grease. We have to be louder.
Yes. Oh, yes, for sure. That's right. And that's why we keep bringing it up here on the PACE Radio Network, to remind people that this is going on and we have to be involved. Yeah.
Yes. We fought hard for the rights that we have.
That's right.
Let them be eroded away.
Yes. Exactly right. Exactly right. Many court cases to get to the point we are now, and there's no use going backwards.
Yeah,
no.
That's for sure. So congrats to Ted. Great stuff happening over there at VCBC.
Let's see what our guest has to say about our news story. So at this time, we'd like to introduce and that is Corrie Yelland. We'd like to welcome you to the PACE Radio Show. Welcome, Corrie. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Good evening, you guys.
Good evening, Corrie. Great to have you on the show. So glad you could join us tonight. I'm excited to dive into a whole bunches of topics with you.
That's right. That's right. Same here. But you're out west. I don't know how much you're following along on what's going on out there, but got anything you want to say along what's going on there with Ted?
Well, I'm in Victoria, so the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club is right here. But the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club is sure near and dear to my heart. When I was fighting for my own life, there weren't a whole bunch of dispensaries. And the only place that I could get any help cannabis-wise was through the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. If it wasn't for them, I would quite likely not be alive today. Wow. So it was them where I was able to go and get my cannabis to make oil to save my life. At the time, they didn't carry oil, but I had no idea where I was going to access it. I hadn't had anything to do with cannabis since I was like 19, and I'm at least 30 now. I'm like, where the hell am I even going to find like quality stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like Alice in Wonderland when I went in there, honest to God. And I went in with this elderly friend of mine, and Ted was wonderful. He came out and expressed his condolences for my diagnosis because, you had to take in proof that you've got something going on.
Right.
And he came out personally and welcomed me. And it was like, oh, my God, this guy like really cares what's going on with me. And, I did the whole intake thing there. And I was there, I guess, about an hour. And when we left, it was quite funny because they have the smoking room in the back, and there was quite a few fumes. And by the time we left, I think the lady I was with was quite buzzed, and she drove over the curb when we left. And, and now she's a member of the club. Okay. Need I say more? But honest to God, Ted would cut off his right leg for patients. Like, this isn't a guy just trying to make a point. He has poured his heart and soul into patients for 20 years. Like, he's amazing. Yeah. He's amazing. Yeah. When anybody else would have folded, he still is carrying on the fight, and he needs everybody's support. Doesn't matter if you don't live in Victoria. Write a letter to the Times Colonist. If you're a cannabis user who believes in rights for cannabis patients, for God's sake, put up a little note. Yeah.
This affects everybody.
It does affect everybody. In fact, I'm sure, Kim, you at some point have probably said the same thing. I often say when I'm talking to people who have reached out for help that this legalization in Canada, I mean, it's okay, but it's done nothing for medical cannabis patients.
Oh, it's hindered medical cannabis. There's absolutely no question. They're in my opinion, I think I've seen the writing on the wall since they were talking about legalization. Like 2 years prior to legalization, somebody showed me one of those memory posts that pops up on social media, and they tagged me in it. And it was something that I had said on a post like 2 years prior to legalization. I said, when legalization happens, they're going to continue to arrest everybody, and then they're going to go after med. And that's exactly what we see now.
Yes. Yeah. The great predictor. What do you see happening in the future?
Oh, they're going after med. They're going to try and eliminate us. I've seen that coming for a long time.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen. Holy crap. Yeah.
Yeah. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah. No, I see it coming. I mean, I think that's the push for rec, is to in the politician and the corporate businessman's mind. I think that's the push, is to get absolutely everything in a wide variety of products available in a store. Well, if you can get it in the store, then you don't need a prescription for it, the same as aspirin, the same as cough syrup, the same as everything else we buy over the counter. Why do you need a prescription for that if you can buy it at the store? That gives them the right to eliminate med, because they will satisfy HITSIG, right? They'll satisfy the court challenge where it has to be readily available for patients. As soon as they do that, they can eliminate med.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cannabis was legal in Canada for a year and a half because the government didn't get their shit in gear and get a medical program out there, and it was late getting out. So cannabis was actually legal for a year and a half during that time because there was no medical program. So they had to have a medical program in order to keep it illegal. And now that all the access is eliminated, that issue is reduced, obviously, dramatically. it's we're going to end up back in court again. We're seeing that
Yeah.
right now with this review that's going to happen. Lawyers are mentioning, this is where you're going to end up. So
Yeah.
Keep our
Well,
fingers
now,
crossed.
John Conroy and Kurt Tusaw have all started speaking out about this
Yeah,
stuff.
Harrison
And
Jordan.
it's like, I've seen this coming down the pike for years already. I've been screaming at everybody, this is what's coming. And everybody, even Jack Lloyd said no, just a few months ago when he was on the show here with us, and I expressed this concern. He told me, no, it's not possible. But yet now we've got Conroy and Tusaw coming out with YouTube videos saying, hey guys, look at this, we've got something to worry about. And yeah, the writing's been on the wall for this shit. I don't know why everybody else hasn't seen it.
Yeah, so let's keep our fingers crossed that
crossed.
Yeah, that's right, that they keep maintaining a medical program so patients can continue to grow the cannabis that they require, and not just the few plants that the government thinks we need.
That's it. I mean, because legalization, the medical program gives us so much more than just, access to purchasing. I mean, there's so many other intricacies that are involved for the patients that are out there, especially long-term patients, OG patients, so to speak, or veteran patients, like any one of the three of us here. We're using it in so many different forms that just aren't available on the market.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just not there yet, but if they get there, we might be in trouble.
Keep your fingers crossed. That's all you can do. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on and find out more about our guest.
Yeah, for sure. OG, for sure. Corrie is Corrie. I mean, anybody that doesn't know who you are, I don't know how they don't know who you are. And if they don't, well, sit back and get comfy because you're about to get an education.
I'm gonna say hi to Ashley, and Ashley will know who she is because Ashley was asking on a recent post in a thread in Cannabis Heals group. About cannabis. Yes. So I told them that Corrie would be on the program tonight.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, our blurb for the ad for tonight's show, gives a little bit of an overview of how you got your start with doing all of this. We touched on it a little bit during our discussion at the start, Corrie, but you were faced with a decision. The medical board, the medical people told you that, hey, this is what's wrong with you, and this is our answer to your problem, and this is what it's going to leave you with. You're going to wind up sealed up from the waist down. You're going to wind up with burns. You're going to wind up, just in really, really bad shape. But maybe you'll be cancer-free. Well, you took that opinion and you said, there's got to be another choice. And you went looking.
I did. So for those who don't know, I was diagnosed in July of 2011 with anal cancer. I was given 2 to 4 months, 6 on the outside, if I didn't do radiation, which I later down the road found out they didn't expect would work. However, I digress. So I went to the cancer clinic and I took 2 people with me to make sure I heard everything. And it was like going to a meat market. The guy was very blasé and he's like, well, this is the worst part of the body to treat. And we're going to hit your coccyx and your pubic bones, so you'll have bone deterioration. We're going to try not to hit your spine. Oh, yes, he goes, like, just matter of factly, oh, yes, your vagina will probably fuse shut. And your rectum will probably fuse shut too. But if that happens, don't worry. We'll just take you up to the operating room and dilate you. Then he proceeded to tell me I'd have 2nd and 3rd degree burns, perianally, vaginally, across my buttocks. And I remember thinking, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't give me straight answers on pain control, and he wouldn't talk about long-term side effects. And this is the thing that, and we touched on this briefly the other day, Kim, they don't talk to you about the long-term side effects.
No.
Chemo and radiation are the gifts that keep on giving.
That's
and
right.
your health, as you know it, will never, ever be the same after treatment, you know? So I looked at him and told him I wanted some time to think about it. I didn't even mention the cannabis word at that point. And he got quite angry. He told me I had 2 to 4 months, stood up, stormed out. As he's going out the door, he told me I had a death wish. And so we sat there, you know, for a few minutes, kind of thinking he'd come back. And then my girlfriend looked at me, she goes, well, guess we're done here. So we went upstairs to the library, and there wasn't a lot on anal cancer, but what there was, one of the most interesting things was, what was the number one cause of anal cancer? Radiation.
And they're going to give you radiation.
I'm thinking, let me get this straight. You want to radiate me to get rid of cancer? To what? Create more cancer? It just, you know, it didn't make any sense to me.
No.
So somebody had, my sister actually, had sent me the video Run from the Cure, which of course is about Rick Simpson and cannabis oil, and I could see it was an hour long. and so I hadn't watched it, and I used to, back in the day, work counseling terminally ill cancer patients coming from a holistic vein. So I thought that I pretty much knew everything there was to know about alternative treatments. And so I wasn't exactly diving into this. And she phoned me and said, have you watched it? And I'm like, no. So I thought, oh my God, I'll watch 5 minutes a day, get her off my back. So anyways,
you can't watch 5 minutes of that.
So I sit down and I watch the first 5 minutes. I went, holy shit. I watched the whole thing. Yeah. Then I watched it again. Then I called my doctor friend. I have an internationally known physician friend in Italy, who's very much into not only, you know, allopathic medicine, but also into homeopathic, and it started the first on-call homeopathic. It was open to alternatives. And I phoned him up and said, Danielle, what do you know about this? And he's like, oh, Corrie, we've been treating cancer with cannabinoids for years here. Yeah. And so I proceeded to research it. That's all I did, day in, day out, for 2-3 weeks. And at the end of it, I decided that that's what I was going to do. And I had been corresponding with a lady, Kim, who was the same age as me, same diagnosis, same proposed treatment. We were identical. She was in the States. And in the end, you know, I said to her, I think this is what I'm going to do. And she chose to do the radiation route. And just before Christmas of that year, I received a very sad letter from her husband saying that she had passed away from an infection to the radiation burns. And she left behind a 12-year-old. She had had a child late in life, and she left behind a 12-year-old.
So it wasn't even the cancer that killed her. It was a side effect from the treatment. Yeah. Side effects from the treatment. Yeah. So I decided I was going to do this cannabis oil. So I thought it was just a matter of going and getting signed up at the local club, you know? Yeah. You're going to go in and they're going to give you some pot and you're going to be good, right? Like, I mean, okay, I'm Alice in Wonderland, okay? So I went to my doctor. I had 2 GPs that shared an office, and the one GP, I asked her, and she said, I don't believe in cannabis. It's against my religion. Oh, good Lord. Seriously, it's against her religion. So I said, okay. And she said, well, Paul might sign, but I don't know. And I thought, oh, God, okay. So now what am I going to do? So there were 2 places in town I could go. And the first place said, we can't do this without a note from your doctor. But he said, you know, you might want to try the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club if you've got some medical documentation, which I had. I had all the results, the biopsies and all that. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I ended up going to the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, where I was able to access cannabis to make the oil. But that in itself was quite an adventure, too, okay? Because
You know, I'm like 65 now, okay? This was only 8 years ago, 9 years ago, all right? I'm not exactly, and really connected with people in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm that nice lady, all right? A little weird, but nice.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I know,
I'm
it can
like,
be
shit,
difficult
what
to
am I going to
navigate.
do? So
Yeah.
I go to the Phoenix Tears page and watch, there was one link to a website that was mentioned in this video. And I go on there, and lo and behold, there's a video on how to make it and written instructions. So I printed out the instructions. I had a few friends that helped me make it. We all read it several times so as not to blow each other up when we were making it. And a friend said I could make it at his place because I live like in a townhouse complex.
Yeah.
So we went over there and we made it in his backyard, and the rest is history. I remember looking at this black stuff and thinking, this is going to save my life. But, it's funny, too.
Yeah.
It's funny how religious one can become overnight. Like, I'm not religious per se. I believe that there's a higher power, higher energy, whatever. But I was doing the deals with God, okay? I'm like, yo, even if you just hold it at bay, I'm okay with that. Okay,
Yeah.
But I proceeded to start taking this oil. And the first time I took it, I was so scared. I was one of those people, when I smoked cannabis, I got super paranoid. And it wasn't any fun for me. It wasn't that I had anything against using cannabis. The first few times I used it, I had a riot. I was killing myself laughing. But after that, I just get super paranoid. So the first time I took oil, I was really, really frightened. And I had a friend stay with me. You're going to laugh. 9 hours.
Stay just in case.
Just in case. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be all right. Oh, my gosh. But anyway, so I started taking the oil, and when I started taking this oil, I was in really bad shape because I didn't just have this terminal cancer diagnosis. I had something called Post Sternotomy Syndrome from having had open heart surgery. And so for 5 years, I had been this wreck. I looked like a little old lady crumpled over. I was in agony. I was on a crap load of painkillers. I was on 10 to 15 Tylenol 3 a day, Dilaudid, morphine, Percocet, opium, you name it, I had it. And
the opiate train.
What's that?
The opiate train. They love that opiate train. Don't they love doing that to you?
It would hardly work at all. I couldn't wait for night to come so I could sleep. I'd take a sleeping pill. I'd sleep for a couple of hours. I'd wake up racking in pain. I'd sit on my patio, rocking back and forth, crying till morning. And then I'd say, okay, I made it through another night. And that was my life for 5 years. Within 10 days of doing oil, something I hadn't even counted on happening took place. I didn't require painkillers. In 10 days, I went from all of those pain medications down to half a Tylenol 3.
There you go.
And I have not had any pain medication of any kind in, 9 years, 9.5 years now?
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Benefits that you didn't even expect.
Yeah, exactly. And, when I told my social circle that I was going to be doing oil, there was, the range of reactions from totally support you to, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And, even the ones that were really skeptic, I remember one individual, him coming up to me and going, you look great. Like, you look like really great. Like, even your skin looks different.
Yeah.
And that was very early days. That was within a couple of weeks. And I would literally have people walk by me and they didn't even recognize me because the change was so dramatic.
Yeah. You were feeding your endocannabinoid system and creating homeostasis. Imagine that.
Imagine that. So I continued taking the oil. But I never got to okay, so keep in mind, limited information then. No Facebook pages on it at that point. Yeah. So I'm only going on this video. That's the only information I have.
That's all we had in the early days. Yeah.
That's all they had, and I didn't have anybody to touch base with it, etc. So I didn't really know what I was doing. So, of course, in the video that's all about getting up to 1 gram a day and 60 grams in 90 days, well, I was nowhere near 1 gram a day. I have a low tolerance for cannabis, and I certainly hadn't done 60 grams in 90 days. So I never went back to the doctor for an entire year because I figured it was still there because I hadn't done the magic formula.
Right.
And also, I didn't want any more bad news. So,
you're just like, well, I'm past my 90 days where they said I was going to be gone.
Yeah.
I'm still here, so I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
Let's just carry on.
I'm good.
Exactly.
And I remember talking to my son and saying, I don't know, Michael, quality or quantity, and him saying to me, I support you whatever you choose, and so he was supportive when he knew I was doing oil. Some of my family not so much. I have nurse sisters, and of course they're in a different world, but they look at it totally different now. But anyway, so I made my way back to the doctor finally. I thought, I guess I should go in and get checked, and so he examined me, and first of all, I should intervene here and say, I did tell him what I was doing. I had to go for a follow-up with him after I'd been to the cancer clinic, and I walked in, and so this is a specialist, and he says, so how's radiation coming? And I look at him, I go,
so he doesn't even know that you didn't do it.
Well, he's not read the chart or anything, right?
Yeah.
No, this isn't my GP. This is a specialist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we need to talk. So I proceeded to tell him about, the video and everything and what I'd found out in my research. And he listened with rapt attention for 15 minutes to me. And then at the end got up, walked across the room, got down on one knee, took his hands in mine and said, I want you to know that I stand behind you 100% in what you're doing and that I will follow you.
Nice.
Wow, that's unusual.
That was
they opened the door and kicked you out.
Yeah, and he didn't. And he, right? He admitted that he knew nothing about cannabis. He said, "I don't know anything about it, but I stand behind you." So here I am, finally back there, and he examines me, and he just gets really quiet, and he said, "Do you mind if I have another look?" Anyway, so he did this 3 times, and I'm thinking, shit, this has gotten really bad or something, right? And he looks at me, and he's like, it's gone. It's completely gone. He said, I would never know that you had cancer if I hadn't seen it, sort of thing. He said, there's not even any scar tissue.
Nothing.
Wow.
Because see, I had gone in. He had taken me into the operating room and done a couple of biopsies. So, so the way he explained it to me was the tumors were like big cauliflowers, and you cut off the top of the head of them, but there were all these stems and stuff left. And he said there was nothing. And he even said in his report to my GP that he was absolutely stunned that there was no scarring, absolutely nothing.
It just is. Well, that's because cancer cells self-destructed. They killed themselves. They committed suicide and were flushed from your body.
Yeah. Exactly.
When you cut it away, it leaves scar tissue. When it disintegrates, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And so that's basically my story, and I've been confirmed cancer-free ever since then.
And you've been on a path, Corrie. I'm going to interrupt you because I know Al is biting at the bit because it's commercial break time, and I have so many questions and so many things that I want to talk to you about with our listenership that's out there. I mean, you've been on a path since that happened to you, and you've been speaking out literally all over the world, and we're going to talk about that and so much more when we come back from the break.
That's right, we sure are. As Kim says, it's break time. After the break, Kim and I will continue our conversation with our guest, Corrie Yelland. This is the PACE Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the PACE Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Hey growers and grow shops, do you want a 20% increase in yield from your cannabis grow? Then you need Calexa nutrients for bigger, better buds. Grow Micro Bloom is a 3-part premium-based nutrient trio specifically formulated to give you bigger, better buds. Win your own sample kit by heading to CalexaNutrients.com and contact us with your name, email, and catchphrase. We will pick one random name on the PACE Radio Facebook page. So remember, check out Calexa Essential Nutrients for bigger, better buds at CalexaNutrients.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the PACE Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the PACE Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net and as well as at paceradioshow.com. Tonight on the program, I'm joined by our guest, Corrie Yelland, and my joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper, and the person behind IWK. Right, Kim?
Yeah, IWK, Info with Kim. We have fun over there.
You sure do. And talking about fun, we have a contest going on here. Today's the last day for people to win a chance to get some free nutrients. for the garden, and we just played the last sound bite in the last commercial. We got one more time, and people have a few more hours left to still enter the contest.
Yeah, great contest, man, for sure. Get some nutrients for your wonderful ladies in bloom and in veg. Great product, too. I got some samples of that last year for my 710 sesh, and I got some feedback from some people that won those products, and they are extremely happy.
That's good. That's Claxia. Essential nutrients. That's right. All righty. We should continue on with our guest, Corrie. And Kim, just before the break, you were going to get into something big and discussion, but we knew it was going to take a while, so we've got that half hour. Let's get her in now.
All right. Well, Corrie, you went through this, amazing experience, and you, like everybody else, had that urge that comes over you when you learn about cannabis medicine. Every patient has gone through it, I think, where it's like, how come everybody doesn't know about this? And I have to tell everybody now. And that's what you've done.
Yeah, that is what I've done. I said all along, if it worked, I'd spend the rest of my life telling people about it. And that's what I do. It's so important to get this information out there, and if it shares or if it saves even one person's life, it's worth it. And that was my thought going into this. And I have patients that reach out to me from literally all over the world. And cannabis is just amazing as medicine, and it's been incredible to be part of so many people's journeys and what they can accomplish. And this isn't, I tell people, cannabis isn't like eye of newt or something. There's a reason why this works. There's science behind this. It's not, it's not just, hey, I got lucky.
That's right. I mean, the discovery of the endocannabinoid system and the cannabinoid factors that reside in this plant and how they work together to create homeostasis. I mean, this is part of science, and it's in science, but it's not common knowledge. It's not something that that's not the first thing people think of when they hear the word cannabis, or they hear the word pot, or they find out somebody's using cannabis. They don't think, oh, is it because you're feeding your endocannabinoid system? No, the first thing they think is, oh, stoner.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, as a patient, we could add you to that very, very, very long list of patients who saw and felt and lived the benefits of cannabis. That no matter how hard the government tried, they couldn't shut you up. You had to say something.
I had to say something. It changed my life, and it saved my life. I remember when I phoned my son and told him I was cancer-free.
What a feeling that is to be able to say
like,
those
oh my
words,
God.
Right?
Yeah, it was really an emotional moment. And he said to me, Mom, when you told me that you weren't going to do treatment and you were going to just do cannabis, I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, okay, I've got my mom for 6 more months.
Yeah.
Because he didn't think it would, and here we are. And I have no god awful side effects from being burnt or whatever. And I'm healthy, and cannabis can improve so many people's lives. I've had the honor of participating in saving well over 1,500 people's lives now. So is this a fluke it works? No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And you're the spreader of the information. And, your drive to spread that information, it caught a lot of eyes because you are so forceful. In what
I'm like
you're saying.
I'm a pit bull with a bone.
Pit bull with a bone. She's on it. Yeah, she's on it. But it caught a lot of eyes, and now you're invited to go speak all over the world. You go to Prague on a regular basis.
Yeah. Prague is amazing, and the number of people there are amazing, and the people you connect with. And it's interesting because I've gone there for the last 5 years, and watching, first of all, the number of people that were there. I think first year was 20,000, and I think last time I was there, it was 40, pretty close to 40. But what's even more interesting is the number of doctors that are attending this now, as opposed to the first year that I went. The number of doctors that came up to me afterwards this last time around, I was just floored.
Yeah.
You know, so it's great. You know, the word is getting out there more and more. But unfortunately, first there's the stigma. Then there's the whole, a lot of people that come to me are older and they don't want to be high. Yeah. And they say, I don't want to be high. And I'm like, you don't need to be high. You don't need to be high to get well. And it's just this fear, I think, of what's going to happen to them. But, you know, I've had people that say they don't want to get high, but they're on fentanyl. And,
right. Do you not think you're already high? And I'm like, already high, honey.
What do you think you're doing when you do that?
Yeah.
You know, and as one fellow used to say, so I had this one guy, he was one of the very first people I helped, and his name was Joss Van Zon, and he had prostate that had metastasized to, I can't remember where, doesn't matter. But anyway, after he got well, he kind of carried the torch, and some magazine, Rolling Stone or something in Holland, did an article on me. And of course, Corrie's very much a Dutch name. So when that was published, I was hit with all these people from Holland writing me and wanting help, and they're all writing in Dutch. So I would get Joss on Skype, and we'd do, you know, like a 3-way call with whoever was needing help, and he'd interpret for me. And but when these people would look at him, and then eventually, you know, he kind of started paying it forward himself, but he'd get people that would say, I don't want to get high. And he'd look at them and he'd say, do you want to get high or do you want to die?
Well, yeah, that's been...
I loved it. I just thought it was such a cute little comeback. Because it's interesting, you know, patients for the most part are not afraid to let that nurse put in that morphine into an IV or fentanyl, no problem.
They don't want to get high on pot. Oh, but, God, don't let me get high on pot. No, that can't happen.
Yeah. And then, you know, the people are worried about overdosing. Well, as you know, and I know, nobody has ever died from cannabis. So
and that can't be said about pharmaceuticals, right?
No, it sure cannot.
If you said to that patient, would you rather have heroin or would you rather have cannabis? Because, you know, opiates.
Yeah. I mean, you know, fentanyl. I mean, if you put it in a term that they can understand, you know, codeine, you know, or fentanyl, or you know, perks, you know, all of those things, they'll take those over a joint because, you know, that's okay. That's allowed.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully with, you know, legalization that we have here, we talked about how it's not great and it's harming patients in the long run, I think. But what it is doing, and we have to give credit where credit is due, is it is helping destigmatize acceptance of this plant. If more people, more seniors, I've noticed here with my little thing that I've got going on, I have far more seniors that contact me now than ever before.
Yeah, that's the same
it's
for
more
me.
acceptable.
It's the same for me. They almost feel, I think, a little like what they're doing is not so bad because
that's right. It's legal. It's in the store now. The government said it's okay, so maybe it's okay if I look at this.
Yeah.
You know, so it is contributing to destigmatization in that way. So I'm thankful for that.
You know, one of the things we're missing with this whole opiate versus cannabis thing is, so people will take morphine, etc., and not worry about getting high, but cannabis, they worry about getting high. But that morphine and that fentanyl isn't going to kill your cancer cells. Cannabis is highly likely going to kill your cancer cells.
And stop your pain.
and stop your pain.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, it's multifaceted, right? It's stopping your pain. You're creating homeostasis. I have patients that tell me they've lost weight since doing it. Their weight level's off, and stuff. I've had diabetes patients tell me that they use less insulin.
I've had people actually get off insulin.
Yeah.
Not a lot, less, but yeah.
And use less. By far stuff, it's the homeostasis. I mean, that's happening inside of the body at such a wide level that you go in there to treat one thing and you wind up treating many, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, unknowingly. And that's the benefit. So that's the side effect, right? So, I mean, I'll take those side effects any day.
I had a woman from Victoria who reached out to me, and apparently it took her about 6 months to get up the nerve to contact me because she didn't have cancer, but she had virtually everything else. So she had diabetes, heart disease, she was morbidly obese, she had Sjögren's, and a few other things, major ones, all of them that I can't recall now. And she lost 60 pounds without dieting. She couldn't believe it.
Just dropped off.
It just dropped off, and all of her other stuff disappeared. She got off of so many medications. Their doctor was like, don't ever stop taking this.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference for her, And, with every single person that I've worked with, certainly we lose patients. Generally, the ones we lose are the ones that come to me with one foot in the Hail Mary pass, and they've had all the chemo and radiation, and they're on death's door, unfortunately. But even in those cases, every single time, the family or a brother or a friend or whatever has said, what a difference oil made to that person's quality of life.
Yeah, in the final days. I mean, if it is your final days, quality of life means everything at that point. So if this is going to help with that, then absolutely. And I mean, as a Hail Mary, you've got to give it a try. Who knows if it's going to work? Much depends on the type of cancer you're fighting, where it is, at what, it could be far progressed, but at what point in your body is it far progressed? Can it be backed up or not? Did it hit the lymph nodes? There's countless circumstances that are involved in that, on whether or not it's going to work. And it's not a miracle cure for everyone.
Not a miracle cure, but I would say it's got an 80% success rate. And you never know. Like we discussed this the other day a bit, Kim. I have people say to me, is it too late? And, I'll say, oh, do they have a heartbeat? Because you just don't know.
Yeah. It's never too late to try.
Never too late to try. One of the stories that I like to share to demonstrate that is I was contacted, one of the very first people I helped, a woman from London, England, reached out to me and we Skyped. She was a Serbian woman, and she had a sister who still lived in Serbia and had a child, a 5-year-old daughter with a tumor between the brain and skull. And they had done all the chemo and radiation and surgeries that they could, and it was the end of the road for her, and they'd sent her home. And she was unconscious most of the time, but she was seizing almost constantly, I guess because of the pressure on the brain.
Yeah.
The family totally recognized it was too late to save this child, but did I think oil might stop the seizures?
Absolutely.
Because the sister was going nuts every time it happened. And I said, yeah, absolutely I did. And we worked a bit of magic, and tada, there was oil in Serbia. And I thought that was the end of it. And about 8 months later, I got a really emotional email from the parents saying that the kid was up and playing, the tumor was 70% gone, and they were going to go see relatives that they hadn't seen in 3 years because she'd been too ill to travel. Fast forward.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it gets even better. Fast forward to October, I get another email from them saying they've changed her name from Anna to Bojana, which means little warrior. She's back at school. Here's a picture of her in her Christmas concert, and that tumor's 100% gone. Well, that little girl just celebrated her 13th birthday.
Amazing. Oh, I got goosebumps.
It's those are the awesome stories that
Yeah.
we like to hear about, and
Well, never say never. And the youngest one that I worked with was 2 months old, and the oldest was 86.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
It's hope in a tube.
I've worked with some people in the 80s, and one particular fella he's got Parkinson's disease. His doctor was really impressed. He says, "I never get to say to a patient, see you in 6 months," and he did that day. Yeah.
Nice. What are you using for Parkinson's with him? Are THC or a blend of CBD and THC or what?
More along the CBD end, but there's a little bit of THC into it.
Yeah, because I find Parkinson's seems to be all over the map. Some respond more with CBD and some with THC. So I just wanted your input on that.
Yeah, it's the plant itself is almost a 1-to-1 ratio, and I add just a little bit more THC to it in order to bring it closer to that 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because the plant itself is higher on the higher end of the, there's more CBD in the plant than there is THC. So that's why I add a little bit more in order to bring it closer to that 1-to-1 ratio. But I've never actually had it tested, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Well, it's an evolving science, isn't it?
And, it sure is.
And what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another.
Exactly.
And that's what I was just going to say. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's different, and everybody reacts to a different strain. Different terpenes come into play. Flavonoids come into play. They all make a change in the dynamic of that plant and how it's interacting with individuals. Everybody's completely different.
Everybody's different, and just because you try one kind or whatever of cannabis and it doesn't work, don't say cannabis doesn't work.
Yeah,
because you try one thing. It's I often have said to people, it's not a case of if this will work; it's a case of what will work.
Well, if you go to the doctor, and they prescribe you, I know so many people that are on these antidepressants now, right? That seems to be the next big thing that they're pushing now is antidepressants. Everybody needs those apparently, and so I know a woman that went to the doctor and they said, "Oh, you need antidepressants. Let's try these ones." And she was on them, and they made her. It was horrible. So 6 weeks later, they said, "Oh, that's not the right one. We're going to try this one." In a year, she tried like 12 different antidepressants.
Oh,
so
wow.
I mean, and they just kept changing it. Oh, that's not the right one. It's this one. Oh, let's try this one. Oh, let's try this one. Oh, let's try that. And it's like, holy shit. And that's chemicals that are making your body do flips. I said, do you know how many different weed strains you could have tried in 12 months and found the one that works for you and you wouldn't have any side effects?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a learning process too, and this plant has been demonized for so many years. There's a lot of damage that's been done over this, and it's a case of trying to unravel it a piece at a time.
Yeah. And then there's so many different varieties. Like I had to use the word strains. I know under the new language that's not being used, but there's
new
so
language,
many.
Really?
Yeah, there's so many different variables when it comes to each plant that it's because of prohibition that they haven't had that that proper research that everybody's it's accepting to say, okay, this strain is going to do this and this strain is going to help with that and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and that's the big kicker for modern medicine, right? Standardized medicine, that's what they want. Standardized dosing. And you can't get that with this plant.
One of my family doctors who I no longer have anymore. That's one of the things he said to me was that I can guarantee you when you go to the pharmacy, the pill you take today and the pill you take next week will be the same. Can you guarantee me that with your cannabis from garden to garden?
And if you can't, then they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Standardized dosing. They want standardized medicine and standardized dosing. That's been pounded into their heads for so many decades now that they can't think outside of the box anymore.
Yeah. No. I can tell you that I have a family member who's taking nursing and she has had a couple classes where they did discuss cannabis. They had somebody in to talk to them about it as well. Yeah. So it's good to hear that end. There's something there, but yeah, we've had medical cannabis in Canada for 20 years.
Right.
Where's it been? How come this stuff
Where's
hasn't
the
been taught?
advancement on the medical end? That would have been nice to see, the way we've seen the quick advancement on the rec end there.
Yeah.
Imagine if it took off like that on the medical end.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
where we would be.
Just think maybe in another 20 years we'll have our second brick and mortar cannabis medical store.
Wow, we have one right now in the entire country.
Yeah, that's right.
One.
All right, it's the top of the hour.
All right.
Break time.
All right, break time.
Break time. Am I jumping in here early?
No, it is.
No.
It's break time.
Yeah. All righty. Okay. Let's see. After the break we go. When we return, Kim and I will continue our conversation with Corrie Yelland. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Hey growers and grow shops, do you want a 20% increase in yield from your cannabis grow? Then you need collected nutrients for bigger, better buds. Grow Micro Bloom is a 3-part premium-based nutrient trio specifically formulated to give you bigger, better buds. Win your own sample kit by heading to collectednutrients.com and contact us with your name, email, and catchphrase. We will pick one random name on the Pace Radio Facebook page. So remember, check out Calexa Essential Nutrients for bigger, better buds at collectednutrients.com.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hey, welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. We are being broadcasted live here at paceradio.net, as well as at paceradioshow.com. Today, the program is joined by our guest, cancer survivor and cannabis patient advocate, Corrie Yelland, and my joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. All right, ladies, we're into the last segment, and by the sounds of what we were discussing during the break, there's lots of topics to touch on over the next half hour or whatever, whenever we come to an end.
Yeah, this show, we increased it to an hour and a half, and it's still not long enough for a lot of guests, and Corrie's one of them, so we're going to get right at it. I want to back it up a little bit and backtrack to you, Corrie, and you treating your illness with, and you did the oil regime, and you told your story how you went back a year later and you found out you were cancer-free. Now, for patients out there that are looking at doing this or have already done it, maybe just on their own through information through friends and never really got anybody's guidance or anything, we should probably talk about maintenance dosing.
Yeah, maintenance dose is so important, and often we will see people who don't do maintenance doses, and whatever ailment that they had initially cleared will come back.
Yeah.
Because I think basically your body's getting out of balance again. So you need to be taking a maintenance dose. So I know that Rick Simpson with his Run from the Cure video said, 1 gram a month. I like to err on the side of caution. So I'm more about doing somewhere between 2 and 3 grams a month. I just do a little bit every night.
Yeah, I'm the same. I use, personally, I use oral as well as suppositories, but I also have it in my soap, and it's in my topical cream. If I have an ache or a pain, then there's a cannabis rub that I'm putting on there, and it's in my bath bombs, and so I'm getting it.
Yeah, suppositories are great too. So 95% of the people that I've participated in clearing, for those who wonder how you can do this without being high, I get them to do their oral dose 45 minutes before they go to bed. Yep. It takes an hour to 2 hours to kick in. They sleep through the effects. Then in the daytime, suppositories. So the statistic is that in 90% of cases, people who do suppositories don't get high. I've only ever talked to one person who got high that way. But the key to suppositories is not putting it in too far. You have your inner sphincter muscle and your outer sphincter muscle. You want it just past the inner sphincter muscle.
Right. So it's not one of them ones where your finger goes all the way up there. It's just slightly in. You're just making it in there.
I always share this story with people. So I had a woman. Some people are just anatomically naive, and I was speaking to this woman, and she just could not get this suppository bit. I mean, it didn't matter which way I tried to explain it. And finally, she said, "Ow!" She's a little rough around the edges. She's very sweet.
Go for it.
She goes, "You mean where it gets to that part where it kind of sucks it in?"
Yeah, the suction lift. That's the magic spot.
I'm like, yes. You don't want it up in your throat. And then she was like, "Oh my God, if I push it in too far, it's going to go all the way up to my throat." I'm like, "Yeah, it'll lodge behind your left tonsil." And then she knew I was joking, and we both had a good laugh. But I think people kind of have a light bulb moment when I say that. So with suppositories, because you're not getting high, you can up that dose a lot quicker, too, to get to a therapeutic dose and go about your day and not be gorked out of your skull. And, there's the naysayers out there that say that suppositories don't work and all the reasons. And I remember Dr. Bob Malamede being in Prague last year and us all up on stage and him saying, "Look, we don't know why it works. We just know it works." But now we know why it works. and this is very, very recent news. They took rats who have a comparable system to human beings, and in a lab setting, first of all, they discovered that it's not the blood vessels at all that are absorbing cannabis oil, which is what we knew already. It's actually the fluid of the lymph nodes. So this is a direct quote from this test, and it said, the level of cannabinoids recovered in the intestinal lymphatic system, but not in plasma, were substantially above the immunomodulatory threshold in murine and human lymphocytes. So the CBD concentration in lymph were 250 times higher than in plasma, while the THC concentration in lymph were 100 times higher than in plasma. So in other words, when you're doing that rectally, it's 100 times stronger for THC, 250 for CBD, and you're not getting high.
That's right, because it's not going through your liver. It's not metastasized through your liver, so it doesn't go to your brain and enter the blood-brain barrier. But it is getting into your system and feeding your endocannabinoid system, which is in turn creating homeostasis and keeping you healthy. And that's the objective, right?
That's absolutely the objective. But it's not just cancer, although I've worked with thousands of cancer patients. Yeah. I say to people, show me a disease condition that this doesn't at least help. Diabetes, ADHD, autism, Lyme, depression, PTSD, arthritis.
Yeah, diabetes. Yeah. I mean, run the gambit. I mean, if there's something wrong with you, chances are it's got to do with your system not being in homeostasis, and cannabis can achieve that for you. And it's amazing what melts away.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've heard some incredible stories. I mean, as you know, I do a show called Cannabis Health Radio, a podcast, and our show is different than yours. We just interview patients who have used oil to get better, and there's virtually everything as far as disease conditions that you just wouldn't even think that cannabis might affect, and it does.
Yeah, I mean, and your show is extremely good. I love listening to many of your shows. The patients run the gambit as far as health conditions.
Yeah, virtually every kind of health condition you can imagine, yeah. And, cannabis is such a non-toxic medicine. For goodness sake, try this first before you try the other stuff. Because you can always go and have your chemo or your radiation or your antidepressants if this doesn't work, but give cannabis a try. It's amazing.
Yeah. You touched a little bit on seeing the doctors and stuff in places like Prague being on the increase and on the rise and asking more questions. How does it feel to be a woman of your age and with no medical background to be in a place like Prague and have a certified MD come up and ask you for your advice?
Surreal. Surreal would sum it up. I actually have doctors that send patients to me too. There's one guy in Massachusetts. He sent me, I don't know, a couple of dozen. Somebody in Australia, another one in London. My dentist sends me patients, but it's very, it's surreal, but it's also really neat to have that sharing of knowledge. We have a very well-known physician here in town, or he was a physician here in town, and he basically gave up his practice to educate doctors on cannabis. We've interviewed him a couple of times, and Dave Hepburn, and he actually played a huge role in how cannabis rolled out in Venezuela.
Yeah,
he actually went down there and oversaw that so that it wasn't being rolled out with just CBD and that they could use THC in significant quantities, etc.
A lot of that going on over in Europe with this cannabis light.
Yes.
See, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
But you know, it is about getting the word out there, and boy, even these people that think they're against cannabis, it's interesting when they're faced with a life and death situation, how quickly that changes. One of the people that I helped unknowingly, I have to add, unknowingly, this was before it was legal in Canada, and a guy reached out to me, and I'm not going to say what kind of cancer because it might give it away. But long and short of it is we do have an interview with him on Cannabis Health Radio. However, he did go incognito because he's an extremely well-known police officer here in Canada, and virtually anybody would know his name if I said it. But I only found out afterwards down the road that when we got him to do the interview, and he said, well, blah, 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 blah. And I went, oh, okay. But, you know, that's just their profession. When they skip, when you strip that off of them and they're left with being ill or having a family member who they might lose, it changes real quick.
It does.
Right. It really changes. Yeah. And it's like the science of this with cannabis, Kim, and now, you know, it changes all the time as we get more and more knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all just trying to do our best and trying to help patients, and nothing's written in stone. And the more we can share, and that's what I miss about not going to Prague this year, is it's not so much about Prague, although Prague is absolutely a gorgeous city. It's about being with all these like-minded people who get it and share information. So you come away from there so energized with all this new information that you can use to help patients.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing sharing of the information, you know, in situations like that. And I hope that more of those sort of events start popping up. We see a lot of events are everywhere now, but not like that.
No. Well, you know,
like that.
This show itself is important. This is another venue for getting information out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know? And there's a lot of us working really, really hard.
Yeah.
To try to help people.
And you know, you mentioned your podcast and talking about oil. And in the end, shows like ours, sharing patient stories and what they've gone through, it helps to educate others that are seeking that information. And even if it's not a patient who's seeking, it might be somebody who knows somebody who is ill, and they can share that information to somebody in order to give them that option as well.
Yeah, it's quite amazing that sharing often is how people find out about it. And we had a woman from Nigeria write us a while back. She wrote me, and about 6 months ago now, and she had 3 small children, and her husband had died of AIDS, and she had been diagnosed with colon cancer. She had no idea what she was going to do. Somebody told her about the show. She listened to it. She took oil, and that morning she had just received the all clear, and she was writing to thank us. So you never know who your broadcast is going to reach, or what I say is going to reach somebody, or something Kim says that could be life-changing.
Yeah, exactly.
Spreading the information, that's what we're doing. One-on-one, over the internet, over the airwaves, however you can get it out there. I mean, it's just even saying the word. Today I was out with my girlfriend. We had to run over to the store, and we were in a department store here in my small town, my teeny tiny town of like 10,000 people. City. It's a small city now. We just made it to 10,000 people because we had an expansion at our main industry here, which is a mine. So a whole bunch of people just moved here, so we're a little bit larger now. But anyway, so we're in shopping, and I said, I seen something. It was a nail polish, and I said, "Oh, that would be really nice. Too bad it wasn't in green. It was metallic." And she said, "Oh, green. You like green, do you?" And she said, "Are you Irish?" And I looked at her and I smiled and I said, "No, I like cannabis." And just, I guess the way I said it was extremely enthusiastic.
Even the demo was.
And I got quite the looks from people around. And it was just, and I, I would like it to be one day that I can say that out loud and somebody thinks, wellness rather than stoner.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how you blurt out stuff at the weirdest times. I was in a grocery store.
No, I really like cannabis. And I was just matter-of-factly and very loud like I am usually. And I wasn't really paying attention to who was around me.
Oh, gosh, that's funny.
So what happened with you at the grocery store, Corrie?
Oh, I was going through the grocery store, and it was the annual cancer drive, and the clerk, it's the express lane, and the clerk's like, "Would you like to donate?" And it's my store I always go to, so I knew her. She goes, "Would you like to donate to the Canadian Cancer Society?" And it was like out of my mouth before I knew it. It was like, I went, "Absolutely not." Blah, 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 cannabis, blah, 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 holding up the line. Then people in the line are asking me questions. But, it was all meant to happen because eventually down the road, her husband, out of the blue, was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we got him on oil.
Yeah,
there you go, right? But yeah, it was funny. Absolutely not.
No, I will not give them money.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes, right? But I mean, pretty much every patient that we have had on this show ever to tell their story has had the same sort of evolution in their life where it's like, well, I have to tell everyone. Everyone that is a patient becomes an advocate. Everyone that is a former patient becomes a champion, and feels compelled to tell everyone that they see, "Hey, how come you don't know about this? Oh, use cannabis oil for this, that, and the other thing." But Corrie, I don't think we've ever had anybody on that has quite taken it to the level that you have.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's funny. My son messaged me one night. This is years ago now, and he's not a big Facebooker, so just even the fact that he messaged me on Facebook was huge. And he goes, "I hate to say this, Mom, but I think you're becoming a bit of an activist." So now he bugs me, of course, because I got that Activist of the Year award last year, and so now he really bugs me. But anyway, I'm like, oh my God, am I? I'm just telling people about this, Yeah. I don't consider myself an activist. I consider myself just wanting to help people, wanting people to know that they have a choice. You have a choice. You don't have to be fried and cut and burned and poisoned.
We've had some parents on of young children, and they sort of call it accidental advocates because they had no plan on it or anything. There was cannabis wasn't in their life, and all of a sudden they have a seriously ill child, and cannabis, and it's sort of they become one, and they themselves want to share their stories and share their experiences on the benefits and how it's helped their kids.
Oh, because it's just amazing, and I mean, this is a cancer story again, but I remember one of the ones that's really near and dear to me. They came to me when their daughter Cheyenne was, I think, 15 months old or something, right around there, 15, 18 months, and she was relapsing neuroblastoma, and they had taken her into the operating room, and the doctor came into the waiting room and threw his arms in the air and said, "I'm sorry, I tried, I really tried. She's got tumors around major arteries. Take her home and make memories." She probably got a couple of months with her. And she reached out to me, Mandy, and we got Cheyenne on oil and diet change. And Cheyenne is now 8 years old.
Oh, amazing. That is awesome.
Yeah. So it's just incredible what it can do and the lives it can change. And these kids that are having seizures and no longer having seizures or much less seizures, and some of the autistic children, the response has been profound too. I had one mom whose child was 4 and he was completely nonverbal and violent, and it was just a nightmare. And she said, I long for the day, I don't know if it'll ever happen, where you will tell me he loves me. And 10 days later, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
10 days.
10 days. She called me crying. Oh, boy. Yeah.
You know, you've talked a little bit about several families, you know, where children are involved. And this is, for a long time, that was a really, really touchy spot to be in, to try and treat a kid. You know, Al, you know this from, you know, when we were all in court and prior to court fighting for the extracts trial, you know, and the kids that were involved, you know, Cadence that was involved in that.
Yeah,
and
Mandy was an intervener in there for her son Liam.
Yeah, Mandy as well for Liam. Cadence was involved as well, and you know, so many kids, right? That brought us our right to extract was brought to help these children, but find a physician up until recently to prescribe for some of these kids. Now that was a task.
Yeah, and it is a task still, though not quite as bad. But I mean, well, this particular case I was just telling you about, when the legalization went through, she wrote me and she said, now I don't have to be afraid anymore.
That's right.
How horrible to have a child with a life-threatening illness and have to worry about police.
Yeah, that should be the last thing. Hey, listen, I'm treating my kid. I'm saving my kid's life here. All right? Can you just, you know, screw off for a little while?
Yeah.
Because we're busy.
Yeah, the plants that the parent has are legal for the parent, but I could see where maybe there are other authority figures that might want to step in because of the fact that it's going to a child that's not prescribed.
It's a gray area and it's touchy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, that's like Mandy's situation when she intervened. There was that, you know, the cannabis that my son is legally allowed to have is you know, it's not against the law, but as soon as I turn that into an oil, then it is. And
so what is Liam supposed to do? Roll a joint?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So now we've got 8-year-olds like what? You know, hauling on doobies here? What are we supposed to do?
Well, I'm glad we don't need that.
You know, I mean, come on. Yeah. Of course, you know, we need the right to extract. You know, Grandma needs to make tea and Liam needs his oil. And you know, all of the rest of it. So, you know, that was largely due to the children and to the seniors that were using this. AIDS patients, cancer patients that were ingesting oral medications through VCBC, making the baked goods and stuff. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's been an evolution, but we've still got a hell of a long way to go if we're still scrambling to try and find physicians for some of these patients, and especially the kids sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a challenge, and it'll continue to be a challenge. But as we all, I think we can agree, it's getting a little better slowly, and hopefully it gets to a point where nobody has to suffer. They can get access to the medicine that they choose.
Yeah, Rome and all that, not built in a day.
That's right.
Fight
exactly.
continues.
You
the fight continues. That's right. Know, with people like this, I mean, how can we lose?
You know, cannabis has only been legal for 100 years, so we just got to unassemble that 100 years of destruction to it. So.
That's right. That's right. We got to tear that last 100 years down and go back to the way it was forever before that.
Yes, exactly. Well, ladies, we're at the bottom of the hour. Shout out time, unless there's something else questions that you still had left there, Kim.
Well, I mean, I could go on and talk about several situations with Corrie and dive into several other subjects, but that would take a whole other segment. So I think we'll just agree to have her back on again and dive into some specifics on treating patients for different conditions.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All righty. Okay. So shout out. Person, place, thing, website, where can people find you? Where can they hear your podcast at? All that stuff.
Okay, well, they can reach me. My Facebook page is, one is full, so the other one is Corrie, Corrie, and then GA, and then Yelland, Yelland. Our show is Cannabis Health, like healthy, cannabishealthradio.com. I'm certainly, willing to help anybody if I can, be a squeaky wheel if you don't hear from me. Shout out wise, huge shout out to Ted Smith again. I mean, oh my God, he's amazing. I'd also like to give a shout out to Lucas Bahal, who puts on CannaFest each year, and the amount of work that goes into that. And hopefully when COVID's over, we'll all be back together. And I also like to give a shout out to Ginger Bear, who was the man who wrote me when I would write questions about how to use oil. He was the person that was manning Rick Simpson's page or email or whatever, and he gave me all sorts of advice, etc. So I'm very, very grateful to him as well.
Awesome.
Wow, good stuff. Kim?
My shout out this week is going to Chadwick McGregor and First Nations Medicinals in Capreol, Ontario, just outside Sudbury, Ontario. Awesome shop with awesome products, and our sponsor for probably about the next maybe 9 to 12 weeks on IWK, Cannabis Information with Northern Ontario, Kim on Facebook. We do weekly prize giveaways, and our sponsors for the next 12 weeks is First Nations Medicinals. He gave me a giant box filled with so much stuff. It's going to take me 3 months to give it all away. Huge shout out to Chad, man. Thank you very much for your contribution. And our listeners will be happy with their prizes.
Good stuff. You're on next week.
I'm back next week.
That's right.
And who do we have on? I haven't a clue.
Oh, okay. I won't ask then.
I haven't a clue.
All right, good stuff. All right, you can find the page. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram, and we're on the web at paceradio.net. And just so everybody knows, I always like to thank our sponsors. That's Legacy420.com, BMAHydroponics.com, the Camelford Lifestyle Shop in downtown Camelford, as well as DrBuckCTS.com. And to our guest, Corrie Yelland, thanks for coming on and telling us your story and telling about some of the great work that you've done and the people that you've reached and helped.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me.
And
we look great having you on.
Yeah, we look forward to having you back in the future, that's for sure. And as always, thanks, Kim.
You're welcome, Al. Thanks for creating this entire network so we can do this.
Well, hey, we just spread. As Mike said to me, we gotta get PACE everywhere, and now PACE is spreading peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
That's right. I'd be good with that.
All right, sounds good. Okay, good night, everybody, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the PACE Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Do you want to hear what patients and cannabis advocates have to say? If so, then catch the PACE Radio Show Wednesday nights here on paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.